Alright lads, welcome back to the channel. The employees over at Gaijin must be really down bad, as they've broken one of the oldest policies in War Thunder. They have actually given Britain a good vehicle. Already several YouTubers are making hit pieces on this tank, saying it's overpowered. These YouTubers need to be put in prison. This is the only good vehicle that Britain gets, and I think an exception should be made for this little light tank. After all, it is bullying German mains, so it's doing some good for the War Thunder community. Anyway, this is of course the Fox. This tank was developed in the 1960s and entered service in 1975. It was one of the fastest 4x4 vehicles that ever entered service for the British Army, which does transfer very well in game, giving it fantastic mobility. The Fox is also armed with the 30mm Radon gun, the same gun that would later be put onto the Warrior. This features a high power round with a rather low rate of fire, and of course it is unstabilised. This isn't a problem in real life, as it was a reconnaissance vehicle, only real using its 30mm gun in self-defense, but in War Thunder it can cause some problems, especially if you are a reckless, aggressive player, kind of like myself. But as you'll see in the video clips, I did change my ways. I embraced a playstyle of the Rat. I watched some General Sam videos, I camped in some bushes, and got several very high kill games, and including a nuke. While the armour of the Fox can be pierced by a particularly sharp butter knife, it still has a good overall survivability due to its high speed. Anyway, the Fox is located after the G6 in the 4th rank of the British tech tree. It's going to cost you 71,000 RP points to unlock it, and to purchase it, it's going to cost you 210,000 Silver Lions. It sits at battle rating 7.0 for arcade, realistic, and simulator battles. The Fox will of course come stock, meaning you will have to use the APHE belt with 30 grams of TNT filler, as well as a high explosive belt with 85 grams of TNT filler, but the HE belt is pretty much pointless. The APHE, because of that filler, is very good on the side aspect shots into an enemy. You can get one hit kills very easily if you penetrate. I would of course go for the parts and FPE first before anything else. I then make my way down to the APDS belt. It just makes it more easier to penetrate some of the larger heavier tanks that you'll come across, especially in an up tier when you're facing those dirty German mains. But because the mobility is so important in the Fox, I would actually recommend getting the engine or stuff upgraded before getting like all these random bits around here. While the Expert and Ace qualifications aren't really necessary for the Fox, they are rather cheap, so you may as well pick them up, especially if you have some spare SL laying around. It's 210,000 Silver Lions for the Expert and 890 Golden Eagles for the Ace. So boys, is it worth you grinding out the Fox? Or is Gaijin going to do to this tank what they did to the Falcon, aka nerf it into the ground? If you'd like to know more about this little light tank, then stick around for the rest of the video. But first, I'd like to tell you about our sponsor. GE for War Thunder is a long-term sponsor of this channel. The app can be downloaded from the Google Play Store, and you complete various simple tasks in exchange for small amounts of Golden Eagles, mainly answering surveys and watching ads for other apps. I personally use this app in between games or whilst I'm side climbing. You aren't going to win enough to buy a top tier premium, we can easily unlock a few modifications to make a stock grind easier, or purchase a day of premium if you have a free Saturday. Download the app from the link in the description, and use my code for some extra free Golden Eagles. Thanks again to GE for War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Alright lads, welcome back. So the Fox is surprisingly very nifty, especially for a light tank, which usually do suffer in War Thunder. They usually get bogged down by having rather low power to weight ratios, but because of the weight of only 6.1 tons and the engine of 195 horsepower, it actually gives us a power to weight ratio of 32 horsepower per ton, one of the highest power to weight ratios of any light tank or wheeled vehicle in War Thunder. We also have a reversible gearbox, which allows us to retreat or reverse as fast as we can go forwards, which makes the tank very flexible on the battlefield. Even if you extend, you can get out of the way very quickly. This does have some downsides though, as you can see from these clips. In this first clip, I basically look like a white woman with my iPhone and my white Stanley Cup and driving a Toyota Corolla, just flipping it and wrecking the vehicle. In the second clip, I'm making my way through Berlin and I accidentally tap a sandbag and a piece of wood, and it completely ruins my momentum and kind of stops me dead in my tracks, which is a little bit of a pain in the ass, especially on maps where there's lots of clutter. And in this final clip, I run my left tyre into another pile of tyres on the floor, and for some reason it completely destroys my wheel. So the point I'm making is, just because you have an insane level of mobility in this tank. Be careful what you drive into, as it is very easy to just destroy your own chassis and wheels basically. But the Fox pulls like a John Deere 7R 330. It's got so much power behind it, nothing can stop you, apart from a pile of rubbish that is. Anyway, moving on to the survivability, and as you can probably guess, we aren't going to be highlighting too many positives in this part. If we take a look at this cutaway, we can see that we have a crew of 3 men, and like a lot of British vehicles, we're all cramped in there like a nice tin of sardines. You don't really want to be fiddling around with your hands in the dark in this vehicle, as you may grab one of your crew parts, vital parts shall we say, or more importantly knock over someone's cup of tea. But as you can imagine, the armour is basically pointless. It's made of aluminium as well rather than normal steel, so it's even thinner than it is on screen. But I think we can all agree, lads, you don't really want to be getting shot at. You don't even really want to be getting seen in this thing. With your mobility being so good, if an enemy even suspects you're there, or if you whiff a shot and you see an enemy turning their turret, just reverse, relocate. There is literally nothing an enemy can do to catch you. But how are we going to be getting kills? Well, we're going to be using the 30mm Radin. We can carry 99 rounds of ammunition, and our rounds are fed in 3-round clips. The rate of fire of the Radin gun is notoriously slow, but if you are shooting into an enemy's side, it can still be work. As you see in the footage, I still get plenty of kills. And as I said, if your rounds are ineffective, if you've misjudged a little bit, just retreat. There's nothing the enemy can do. The Fox can also bully people over ridgelines, as we have 14 degrees of gun depression. This is very rare for such a high battle rating vehicle. We can kind of peek over hills without really exposing a lot of our vehicle. We also have 40 degrees of gun elevation, which does give us some limited capabilities against enemy aeroplanes. But just like in the Warrior, we are also lacking a stabilizer. This is a bit of a huge issue, as you can't really fire at anybody accurately on the move. But to be honest, if you're putting yourself into a position where you are basically going 50-50 with an enemy, you are playing the Fox wrong to begin with. The Fox also has fantastic gun handling capabilities. Our turret will traverse at 6 degrees per second with an ace crew, and our vertical targeting speed, basically how fast the gun rises or depresses, is 30 degrees per second. So you can really swing this turret round and get that gun on target incredibly quickly. The one downside I will say is the gunner's optics. This is a flat 10x zoom. This means it is very hard to aim at enemies that are close to you, especially if you are trying to brawl or get round or to snipe an enemy's barrel at close range, for example. If an enemy is coming around a corner, it's very hard for you to get that gun on target accurately, as you do get tunnel visioned very easily. On the other hand though, it is a scout vehicle, so if you stay at long range, you do have a very capable sniping weapon. But an effective sniper is only as effective as his rifle, so is the 30mm Radin any good? Well, our stock belt of APHE only has 53mm of penetration at point blank range. This is rather underwhelming, I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be a very terrible stock grind. You are going to have to get on the enemy's flanks, unless you are coming up against enemies such as the ZSU 57-2, where you can penetrate it frontally. There's also quite a lot of light tanks at this battle rating, like the M41 Walker Bulldogs and the Italian Pizza Mobiles. While it is a struggle to penetrate pretty much any vehicle you're going to come across, if you do penetrate, the 30 grams of TNT filler is very lethal. We also have a 30mm belt. This is absolutely pointless in my opinion. While you can engage low-flying aircraft with this tank, it isn't really made for it, and there's no real reason to use high explosive on any other vehicle. And due to the speed of our next round, the APDS is actually better for engaging low-flying aircraft. The armor-piercing discarding Sabo Tracer Belt travels at 1,175 meters per second, and at point-blank range can penetrate 110 millimeters of armor. Even at a range of 1 kilometer, it can still penetrate 70 millimeters of armor, which means you can put long-range accurate fire into the side of enemy heavy tanks and likely still go through. The biggest downside of this gun is the rate of fire though. Due to the very low rate of fire, it's very hard to actually destroy enemy barrels, as you can't put enough damage into them before the enemy just moves the gun basically. So it is very hard to destroy an enemy's barrel or muzzle brake. So instead of trying to destroy it, I would recommend just retreating and getting out of there, rather than trying to take out their main source of firepower. Let's quickly look at some of your main opponents. We'll start with the Tiger P. This is the 6.3 vehicle, which you can see in a down tier. The upper and lower frontal plates are completely immune to your APDS belt, but the flattest part of the turret front can be penetrated. This isn't going to knock out the tank in a single hit, but it can be used to basically stop him from firing at you, allowing you to relocate to his side. You can't do the same trick on the Tiger II-H though, as the 185mm plate is too thick for you to penetrate. Luckily though, the side of the Tiger II-H can be penetrated. Both the side of the hull is only around 80mm thick, and the side of the turret is again a lot less thicker, and you can target that ammo rack in the rear of the Tiger II's turret bustle, leading to an easy one-shot kill. The Soviet heavy tanks are a completely different story however, as they are basically completely immune from both the front and the side. Notable things are the IS-6, which is basically immune to your round no matter the angle, which is a little bit of a pain in the arse, as well as the IS-4M, which is also practically immune to your fire. I would retreat and let one of your friendlies try and engage them, and then moving in and trying to either track them or destroy their muzzle. We then also have the American heavy tanks, which again are practically immune to your frontal fire. You can penetrate them at the bow machine gun, as you can see in this image, but this isn't going to prevent the enemy from returning fire at you. So again, you may as well relocate and try and get shot into the side of all of the heavy tanks. Anyway lads, the Fox is a fantastic vehicle, it's a hell of a lot of fun. As I said, Gaijin is probably going to nerf this thing into the ground, either by putting it up in battle rating, probably at 8.3 the same as the Warrior, as Gaijin are stupid, they just love to destroy all fun in game. There is no way that this tank is overpowered. The fact that you can flank at the start of a match and enemies don't spot you, that does not mean that this tank is overpowered. It's got the same gun as the Warrior without the missile, and the only reason the Warrior is 8.3 is due to it having that missile to begin with. Gaijin probably will increase the battle rating up to 7.3. This makes some sense as there is actually a British 7.3 lineup, where there really isn't for 7.0. To be fair, this tank does do well even in full up tiers to 8.0, as you can still easily penetrate all of the side armor of the tanks present at these battle ratings. It may even be more effective at a higher battle rating of 8.0, as there's a lot less heavy tanks, mainly being early Cold War vehicles, which ditch the heavy steel armor in favour for more mobility. No matter what Gaijin do, they aren't really going to change the battle rating for several weeks, and because this is only 71,000 RP points, I would recommend everyone going out and grinding this tank. It's such good fun. It's what the British have been lacking really. There are so many wheeled vehicles that Britain had in real life. It's an absolute crime that Gaijin hasn't added them. So this is a small reparation, I guess, to steal a phrase from another community. And I hope Gaijin adds many more British light tanks. Anyway lads, a big thank you to this video's sponsor, GE for War Thunder, and an even bigger thank you to my YouTube producers. I'd just like to say a big thank you to Lola Alphonse, Tans, Doboa LX, Dr. Bob, Thompson013, RS28 Sarmat, Shlunty, Van Halen, Diogenes, Econ, Rodolfo Dizon, and Alan Hacker. Thanks again lads for leaving a like, subscribing, and if you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave a comment saying Foxy Lady. If you'd like to support the channel, consider becoming a member by pressing the join button. Check out the Discord server where I frequently squad up with my members and friends, and don't forget to leave me a like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Thanks again for watching lads, and I'll see you in the next video.